How grown up do you think humanity is? When you look at human behavior around the world and imagine us as individual, our species as an individual, how do you think that person would be? A toddler, a teenager, young adult, elder? This is a quote from the book Promise Ahead by Duane Elgin. I'm here to discuss many of the concepts and the experience I had applying those concepts into my daily life. I'm Gina Kashera, and I chose Promise Ahead because I think a lot of the things that we've talked about in class can be more explored with a lot of the concepts discussed in this book. First, I would like to discuss exactly what voluntary simplicity is and how it relates to a lot of our classwork. Next, I would like to talk about how to reconcile the many divisions we face in life and how they can improve on friendships, relationships. And last, I'd like to talk about the success and failures I had incorporating these concepts into my life. First, I'd like to discuss exactly what voluntary simplicity is. Voluntary simplicity consists of 5 characteristics. The first being material frugality, which is cutting out all the material stuff in our lives that doesn't have purpose or meaning. Second is relationship. This is when we prioritize our relationships over the quantity of them. We prioritize the quality of our relationships over the quantity. Third is when we find our true gifts. This is when we decide as an individual to go out and find exactly what makes us unique and helps us flourish as a person, instead of waiting until we've decided, we've stumbled upon it. Fourth is balance. This is a changing process. It's when we balance the inner and outer aspects of our life. And fifth is meditation. Meditation is when we decide to be more aware in the moment, deepen relationships, and just, minimize distractions any way possible. I feel that a lot of the characteristics of voluntary simplicity are very similar to some of the techniques that we discussed in Chapter 3, 2 of which are the self-aware technique and the self-esteem technique. Similar to voluntary simplicity, they focus on working on the self and how those changes to ourself can be reflected into our interpersonal communications. I also feel meditation can work very well with the stages of listening, where if we're not mindful and we're not minimizing distraction and being aware in the moment, it is hard to actually be an active listener. So next, I would like to discuss reconciling many of the divisions we face in life. The first of which is economical. And Promise Ahead says that a way to reconcile this division is pretty much forming a minimum standard of life. The next one is racial, ethnic, and gender. They put this as one division. They suggest to reconcile this mutual respect. Obviously, you can't expect to get respect unless you give it. And being respectful of each other's differences can help improve our relationship with each other. The next is spiritual, and the book recommends to reconcile with this is to be appreciative and mindful of, each religion's core beliefs and traditions. And if we really look at a lot of the core beliefs of each religion, we find out that they're not actually that different. Next is the generational divide, and a way that it says to reconcile with this is to be mindful in our decisions. Obviously, we need to make sure that if something works for us, that it will work for future generations, or at least leave opportunities for them. And the last is species division, and I think this is one we don't think enough about, and that is that, we live in a very delicate, balanced ecosystem, and the more we trample on that, the more we will face the consequences. Um, and I feel that reconciling with these divisions can help bring us to a friendship relationship with all of these things that divide us. Because obviously, a friendship relationship is two interdependent people being mutually respectful and pretty much holding people in positive regards. And I think using these forms of reconciliation, we can achieve that. So, last, I would like to talk about the success and failures I had with these concepts. So, some of the successes that I had was with voluntary simplicity. It is very similar to self esteem and the self aware technique where you get to really work on yourself. And from my self esteem quiz, I kind of learned I was on the low side. And I definitely experienced a lot more higher self esteem than I usually do due to these, characteristics that I followed of voluntary simplicity. Um, and I think those really reflected into my relationships that I'm having. So I definitely think that that was a success. Some of the failures I had was with reconciling divisions, which is also obviously something very hard to do. I am a technology major, and it's very well known that there is a gender division in the technology field. A male student I was recently paired up with for an assignment this summer, pretty much told me I didn't know what I was talking about because I'm a girl and I don't take technology seriously enough to have a good input. And it wasn't until we met with our tutor, who I've been using for 2 years now since I've entered, college, for my computer classes, to pretty much say, oh, I take it very seriously and I'm very, good at it, for him to pretty much respect me. So in conclusion, I think applying these can help us as individuals and as a species evolve behaviorally. That is why I chose the book Promise Ahead by Duane Elgin and incorporated these concepts into my life, starting with the characteristics of voluntary simplicity, then the divisions we must reconcile to achieve this lifestyle, and finally to share the experiences I had applying these concepts to my life. I encourage anyone to incorporate these concepts I've talked about into their life, and I also let me know, where exactly do you think humanity is? You can find in the description below the answer to the quote in the beginning, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think about it.